and welcome to Access All Areas. There are some very significant losses this weekend, but also some statement wins. One victory that has brought relief to a footy club was the Pies yesterday's. Matty Lloyd, Damien Barrett, as always. They would breathe a little easier, but probably only for 3 hours.
Well, they were very low moments, weren't they, after the Anzac Day loss? And the response is what you look for in a team that has a low moment, and it could not have been more significant than what it was yesterday.
Smiles from the president, the coach and the CEO after the game, Lordo, and it was stark, the contrast between the two teams that had played on the Tuesday. They were full of energy, full of run, whereas the Bombers weren't.
These are fantastic scenes. Look at his red in the face. And Nathan Buckley, he always holds himself well, and the reward the players get. But what I found the most significant in this game, Scott Pendlebury was interviewed after the game. We see the scenes here. It was an intense game. Selwood had a tough day. Greenwood was all over him. Maybe there was some words spoken between these two during the game. But anyway, they shook hands, which was fantastic.
I don't know. I don't know what to make of this, and no one's been able to this stage of the day anyway.
Well, they worked him over all day, so obviously it would have and the team would have also, and it would have spilt over. But what Pendlebury said after the game was, we played instinctive footy today. And the word instinctive to me just stood out, as in, we haven't played that way the first 5 weeks, and we finally did it, and we got the rewards, and that's how they have to continue to play. And
he had a bad game on Anzac too, didn't he, Gaz? Yeah. Pendlebury himself. And the response, again, from the captain down yesterday was one that I think would allow them now to think there is some hope in 2017, because I think outside that narrow win against Sydney Swans, they haven't had much reason to think there's something coming.
I mean, they're indicators from a statistical point of view that says they're in every contest, haven't been able to finish. They've got 4 games, 3 of which would be imminently winnable going forward. Mason Cox would have to perhaps instigate a different goal-kicking routine than this one.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think he was running. He thought the goals were the points at the one stage, and then he's thrown the ball backwards. So Scotty Pendlebury, again, after the game, just laughed and said, hey, we've got to teach him a new handball technique here, but just panicked here, didn't he?
He's interesting. I mean, he had some moments in that game where you thought, geez, worth persevering with. They'll have a decision to make with Reid coming back, Dunn holding down the spot. Belated, perhaps, selection, Lyndon Dunn, but he did a good job on Tommy Hawkins.
Now, Selwood and Dangerfield were down yesterday, Lordo, and Geelong doesn't like us talking about this too much, but when they are down, they don't perform, and it's just not going to go away, is it, when that indeed happens?
No, and they've had better support this year. That's we've spoken about that with Duncan and the like, stepping up, but this was significant. Did Greenwood, and this begs the question: why haven't more clubs tried to do it? And maybe Joel's almost untaggable, but Greenwood's record on Selwood for the last 3-4 times he's played has been emphatic.
Yeah, they beat them exactly the same way as they beat them last year. Collingwood possessed the ball by foot, sideways, and Geelong just couldn't get their hands on the ball like they'd like to. And Motlop, Blixarves, all those second-tier players would be disappointed with their games as well.
Obviously only 6 rounds in, and they've only had the 1 loss, but the one team they've beaten only in the 8 is Melbourne. Can we at all get a read on where they're at, the Cats?
They haven't won convincingly, but still, I think St Kilda they're going to win a lot of games this year, so I still think that was a good last quarter fight back. So if you're 5-1, you take that. If you do that, you lose 4 games for the year. So they're off the top 3, but they're still in a good position.
Yeah, if we can see GWS Adelaide and Western Bulldogs, they're in the second tier and comfortably in there. Hey, let's go to the Etihad yesterday. Roof was shut. No worries about the conditions. The worst skills in a game executed in the first half that I've seen for a long time. And Joe Daniher, let's talk about him. No goals 6 to half time. And Lloydie, you spent time with him. I'm not putting it on your shoulders. I don't think he's any closer to sorting out this problem than when he was when he first started, because at any given time, at any shot on the ground, I think he's making it up on the run.
Yeah, I think he is too. And we heard John Worsfold after the game say, as long as Joe's doing the work, I'm happy. But there's no consistency, so you can be having a lot of shots at training. It doesn't mean you're training properly, and I think that's what he's got to fall back to. We spoke about this pre-show. Every spot on the ground, does he know what he's doing? One time it was a drop punt, the first time. The one he actually kicked was a snap, and they were similar shots. So he's doing something different every time.
Well, does he care enough? And I asked that because his attitude yesterday, it may well have just been a reaction and I suppose a human reaction to what he's going through, the embarrassment of it. But the laughter, even after he kicked the 1 goal, which came after missing it, even this with a former teammate here, but I don't think this is right, that Gaz. I know you can sometimes overplay what's going on here and big deal, but what's he doing?
He kicked 0 goals 6 to that stage, and maybe I'm old school. I don't like it.
No.
I don't like it. I don't think Michael Hibberd was all that comfortable. It was one of those strange games yesterday. There was a lot of bum padding on either two each side from either side. It was almost an acknowledgement as if to say we're both coming off tough, short breaks here, let's just look after ourselves, particularly in that first half.
Just on Danaher, though, his career has been curtailed by this inability to convert. And it's now got serious. He's got 76 games behind him. He's 23 years of age. And as you said, it's actually arguably worse now than it was when he played his first season.
Can you, no, not you, because I hate it when people make it about you. You've had your time there, but is it fixable?
I don't think he's ever going to be a great kick for goal. So it's just how efficient he can be. Can he kick 6 out of 10? You know, 7 out of 10 was the greatest, Tony Lockett. Yeah. Can he become a 5 or 6 out of 10? You know, just to stop missing the sitters. That's got to.
He can't be a 1 out of 8 as he was yesterday. No. Otherwise, the reputation that he enhanced the week before will drop off pretty quickly. That's the bottom line. It was a game, Damo. This game, I watched it every minute, painful minute. The first half was just. Everyone should have gone home. They needed a moment, and Jack Viney, you know, we haven't been critical of their leaders. Well, we have been. We said, where's the Selwood in their side that can get them across the line? Because they've been in winning positions 3 times. That moment there, 36-33, 16 to go in the third quarter, was the moment. It was almost like he said, oh no, enough's enough. So that was going to another stoppage. He willed himself in it, got the ball out, won the next clearance, and he had a 20-minute moment where he just changed the tone of the match and won it, and it got the Demons going. And
he did that, Gaz. And Lordo, Joe Watson didn't at the same precise time. And when John Westfold makes those comments, as he made 2 weeks ago, about hitting the wall, again, there was no specific reference, but it seemed to be directed at Joe Watson. Should he have played in that game yesterday, given it was a 5-day break between that and the previous one?
Hindsight, no, Damo. 13 disposals. Watson looked really sluggish. They've now lost 3 of their last 4 games. They've lost to Carlton, they've lost to the Adelaide Crows and Melbourne. So Essendon for too long just haven't had that resilience and toughness. And you talk about Danaher smiling, laughing. We talk about Melbourne. Both these teams have got the time's come. They just do not put games together.
Well, Watson himself, does he need a break now? Or is he the fact there's a 4 weeks break between this game?
I think 4 weeks break he should be right. I think
are you worried about him though?
Yeah, I am. I think that he's obviously never been quick. But he isn't as clean and probably covering the ground as well as we'd like. And as a forward, he lacks that speed to get off a man. So he's probably pigeonholed as just a midfielder at this stage.
He looked like he needed a break to me, just as a passive observer. And I know that John said that he spoke to Job. Job said he's ready to go. Sometimes you take it out of their hand and just say you're not playing and we'll get you right. Because he needs to be full of energy to play in the manner that we have. Just the Crows last night. They were awesome. The 18-8 inside 50s down in the first quarter against Richmond. Richmond had 18 inside 50s to 8, and you thought, hello, this is a challenge. Within the space of, 15 minutes, they put it to bed, and then they just brushed this best defensive side aside and, went on and kicked 21 goals.
135 points or thereabouts averaging per game. No one's getting near them. Can they sustain it?
Oh, I think they can. They're just scoring so easily. And you look at this players just queuing up. I think their forward line is in sync. Their midfield is in sync. They've got a bloke by the name of Rory Sloane. Look at Jack Viney. He's doing it week after week. Tex Walker's playing as good a footy as I've ever seen.
2 Crouch boys. Brad back, but Matt gets left behind. He had another 37. I think coaches' votes, he's in the top 3 or 4, Matthew Crouch. He's the one that's gone under the radar.
And what does it say about the Tigers?
Probably everyone who's been there, whether you be the Giants, Essendon, now the Tigers, the same has happened to all of them. So they can finish anywhere from 6 to 8. The Tigers have had a good year.
Got the Dogs this week, so we'll find out.
OK, now the great Sydney Swans, the great Hawthorn Footy Club, both had coaches on the weekend, Gaz, using strange words. Unacceptable when it came to John Longmire's description of what happened in their game, and catastrophic change being promised by Alistair Clarkson. You could not have foreseen this 6 weeks ago.
And even as someone as good a judge as yourself, Damo, and I understand when having a go at you said, the faith remains. The Swans will get on a roll and they will. Well, they're 0-6 and they won't. And what interesting, some of the language, Clarko referred to their 6 or 7 All-Australians a couple of weeks ago. We spoke to Tom Harley this morning. He referred to their 5 All-Australians. Now, they're not All-Australian. That's the bottom line. They have been and they're not, and that's what we're slowly, as supporters, coming to grips with. It's not who they once were, both of these sides. It's dramatic.
Yeah, it is. Take a look at some of these goals that St Kilda kicked, and I just think they got up for 1 week, Hawthorn, and you want to say, OK, they've turned this around, but emotionally, Damo, Sydney and Hawthorn, who have been to the top for so long, they're not emotionally there anymore. So I don't care how good your game plan is, what your tactics are. If you don't come to compete and fight, you'll look like this, second rate. And
Lordo, what we're showing here, there's mistakes being made by St Kilda within these patches of play, and yet they're not being penalised, even remotely being penalised. I mean, remember he's fumbled there and still had time to wheel around and and kick that. And it happens here.
This is the first quarter. They're 7 points down. You want intensity at a contest. If this was West Coast last week, Hawthorn would have shut this down there. And look how easy they slice through this. And you know the other more emphatic thing about all this is the venue. This has been Hawthorn's
fortress.
Fortress. They never lose here. Look at this. This is not the last quarter when they're 15 goals down. This is the first quarter. He drops a mark, Revolt, and gets on and back it up. That's it. Line through them. That's it. And I reckon Alistair Clarkson will look at it and go the same way. Rioli didn't play. Gunston, Bruce, Burgoyne, Gibson, they got up for one. Doesn't look like they can get up for more than that.
Callum Mills has become a bit of a face of what's going on with the Swans, despite being so young into his career. But the Blues clearly, in what they did against the Swans, had an issue with him, and they did target him, again, within the rules, but it was clearly an idea and a plan they had going into it.
It wouldn't even have been an issue. The thing that disturbed... clubs have been doing this forever and a day, is they pick out a player. It's probably a backhanded compliment, but they've looked at him and said, well, if you're the second-year most important leader, we saw him address the team last week, well, we'll go after you and chop the snake's head off, which is the whole philosophy. What I want to know... I wasn't at this game, I didn't see it. Where's the support for him? Second-year kid.
And what's this next bit here where he's just gang tackled by three strong bodies and then there's reminded about it by Gibbs once it's done?
I'd love to see that again. There's Hanbury and Parker both there, and you know what they both do? As soon as the whistle's blown, they hands on hips and head down thinking, geez, aren't we in a bit of trouble? There's your second-year kid, 3-on-1.
They've gone into survival mode. Spot on, Gary, with that. And just on Callum Mills, he also had goals kicked on him. They played through his man. It's amazing. You have a few good years and the competition are trying to work him out.
Stevie Johnson, Gaz, is he in the best 22 when those injured players come back for the Giants?
I reckon if you put them all on the deck and every single GWS player was fit and well, then he'd struggle.
So we're talking about Caniglio, Whitfield, Deledio.
Yeah, but I'm not sure they're all going to get back. And I'll be surprised if Stevie Johnson's not playing in September for the Giants. I think there's this intangible thing that he brings. I think he gives confidence to Toby Green and Devon Smith and all these sorts of... And I think in the end they might just be prepared to carry him, even if he's not at his best form.
Lotto, Adam Simpson is like, I think, the rest of the footy community, does not know where his club is at, despite having a good win in, as they call it over there in Perth, the Derby.
It probably leaves us with more questions than answers about where we're at the moment. So respect the win and take it. And we're 4-2. That's a good position to be in. But we've still got some work to do.
That's perfectly summed up. That's a coach with a handle on where they're at. What do you say? More questions than answers, and that is exactly right. The whole footy world knows that. They play Port Adelaide in Adelaide, so you'll get questions to your answers, Simo, I reckon, this weekend.
And these players, Damo, he can only coach them so much, and they need to stand. I can't wait to see Darling, Lacroix. They're on watch this week, the West Coast Eagles.
Well, they've got another dimension to tackle against Port Adelaide on the weekend with Wingard